We left off last time getting our detail view just connected to our list view with a blurry background, looking good. What's not looking good is our appetizer detail view. It's what a mess. So let's stop this and let's start refactoring. I'm going to start with the buttons just because I feel like we've done that before. That's kind of a review. So let's refactor out this kind of main button. Again, this is the price button at the bottom. This should be review. I think we've done this twice now. But here in the views folder, let's create a new group called buttons. And within buttons, new file. And we're going to make this a Swift UI view. We're going to call this AP button. Again, AP short for appetizers. Hit create. Cool. And then in our appetizer detail view, I can literally copy and then back to the AP button, replace text with paste. And instead of, we're not going to like pass in an appetizer, which you may be tempted to do because not all buttons are going to need appetizers. We just want to pass in the string that is the text, right? So we're going to do let title, and that is of type string. So we can just get rid of all this and make this the title, right? So whatever title we pass in, that's what it's going to be. Again, keep all our formatting there. Cool, good to go. Let's check out the canvas. Oh, I'm going to need a title that we did. Again, previews always get me. Maybe you're better about the previews than I am. They always get me. So we'll say test title, and let's pull out the canvas just to make sure we got this. Cool. Yep, there is our button. So if you did want to play with the button, maybe make a crazy gradient or shadows or whatever you want to do, this is your playground to like test that out. Okay, so back to the detail view. Here we already have our button highlighted. Let's do, I'm gonna keep that text because I'm gonna copy and paste it. Actually, I'm gonna copy it right now. Or Command X, whatever. Just get rid of all of it because this is going to be a AP button. But an AP button takes in a title, and the title is a string that I just copied or cut and pasted, right? So that's the string we want to put for the AP button. Hit try again. Okay, what did I mess up? Oh yeah, that's right. Just a normal string doesn't have this specifier. We need to go back to our AP button and make this a localized string key. And then now if we go back to the detail view, do a Command B, now we get that specifier. Okay, so there we go. We got our specifier now. Our preview still looking good, and our AP button has been refactored. So now the other button we want to refactor is our circle X, right? Because that adds a lot of like bloat to this overlay. Makes this overlay like 12 lines of code. So let's basically do the same thing we just did, right? We can we'll go ahead and cut it actually. So Command X to cut that Z stack, and in buttons, new file, new Swift UI view. Call this, I can't remember if it was dismiss X button or X dismiss button. I'm gonna go with X dismiss button. Again, because this is a common type button that you're probably gonna use throughout your project. And instead of the text, we're going to copy and paste the Z stack there. Let's take a look at our preview. Yep, there it is. Again, you can't see the white circle because we're on a white background. That's all good. Let's go back to our appetizer detail view. And instead of having nothing here, let's call X dismiss button, and there's nothing we got to pass in. It's just generic. Okay, let's run this to make sure our refactor is working. Make sure our X dismiss button still looks how we expect. Yes, it does in the upper right, and we tap it. We're good. Okay, cool. Stop running that. So again, I always like to test along the way on the refactor because it's very common to break things, when you refactor it, thinking you got it all set up right. Okay, so the next thing I want to take a look at, right? We refactored our buttons, got that looking nice and neat. The next thing I want to look at that's really kind of out of whack, right? Like our image, that's fine. The top text of our VStack, this is a font of Title II, semi-bold. This is very different, right? It's body, multi-line text center. So you don't want to like refactor that into the same thing. I mean, you could refactor these out. So this would just be like, description text, and then you pass in description. I find that unless I'm going to reuse that like all over the app, then yes, of course, refactor it out. Maybe you want to refactor it out for practice. Great, even though we're not going to use it. But I find when there's just like one or two modifiers, I think it's simpler to keep it here because it's easier to change. It's easier to like see what's going on. It's in the case of like our button, right? Like going back to the AP button. Like when you have, 6 modifiers, X dismiss button, like it's a Z stack, like that type of stuff, I refactor even if I do only use it once. But back to the detail view, like I said, there's only 2. I'm not really reusing it, so I tend to keep these, but if you want to refactor it, I wouldn't argue against that. However, these VStacks, that are our nutrition, right? These are being reused. So I would refactor these. Okay, so what are we going to need, right? We're going to need a title because it's different every time. and then we're going to need a value, right? The 99 that we'll pass in. So let's Command C. And again, this is the case where I would keep this in the same file. Again, unless you were using this nutrition stuff elsewhere in the app, but I would keep this in the same file just for ease of use. So we'll call this struct nutrition info, and that is of type view. And I'm going to scroll up, get it out of my face. And we got to conform to that, right? So var body some view, again, the typical Swift UI view. Now, like I said, it's going to take two properties, right? So we need let title, that's going to be a string. And then let, we'll call it value, and that's going to be a string as well. And in fact, you know what? I'm actually going to make this an int, just to be very clear what we want to pass in, because we'll handle the string interpolation down here. Okay, so again, let's paste the VStack that we copy and pasted. Okay, so instead of calories, I want title, right? So whatever we pass in. And then here's where we're doing that string interpolation. So it's expecting an int, so we'll just pass in value there, right? So title and value. And now let's go up to our H stack. And instead of having 3 VStacks here, we can do nutrition info. And you can see that's going to take in a title and a value. And the title is going to be carbs, and the value appetizer.carbs. And then I'm going to delete these VStacks because we don't need them. And really just copy and paste our nutrition info 2 more times. So 1, 2, cool. Hit resume on our preview to make sure everything is fine, cool. Except obviously we don't want carbs each time. We want this to say, actually I think I got those out of order. I think it's supposed to say calories, then carbs. I think it was calories, protein, carbs. Either way, the order doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. Calories, and then carbs, and then protein. If I change the order, oh well, not a big deal. But you can see how our H stack looks nice. And the reason why I didn't like refactor out the whole H stack, because you could have done that and then just said like nutrition info H stack or something like that. I think when you look at the screen and you see this, 3 of these, like to me, looking at this image that's in the red square and then seeing this, to me, I don't know if maybe I'm just experienced with code and maybe you don't see that, but that's automatically related, right? It's obviously 3 of the same items. I can see that's 3 of the same, when I say items, like UI elements, I should say. 3 of the same UI elements, and I can see that's 3 of them. So to me, I make the connection in the code by having this spelled out with 3 items. So again, I'm just giving you the insights on like how and why I choose my style and to format my code like I do. Because again, I'm always aiming for ease of understanding, right? I'm not trying to be super clever. I'm not trying to be like, hey, look, I did this in 4 lines of code. Like, no, that's confusing. What is the easiest to understand for a new developer coming in? That's what I'm always thinking about when I try to style this. So now that we have that refactored, I would say our screen is looking a lot better, right? Let's run through it again. We have our overall VStack, which is the card, right? And this is all the formatting on the card, the shadow, the corner radius, the background color. Cool. And then we have our VStack, which is the text information here. And then within that VStack, we have our H stack with the 3 nutrition info views. And back to the refactoring discussion, like I said, if you wanted to make this just like, title view, body or description view, that could clean it up. Again, we've discussed that. I don't want to go down that path again. Our button, nice and clean, AP button. And then our overlay, nice and clean, X dismiss button. So I would say our nutrition detail view refactored pretty well. Now let's go back to our appetizer list view. The last thing we're going to do in this video, get rid of the preview here because it's useless. Now the small adjustments we want to do here is, like I said, the view should be as dumb as possible. So we want to move our is showing detail and selected appetizer into our view model. So I'm going to Command X to cut that and get rid of that spacing there. Open up our view model, and then here below our variables here, create 2 more. And then instead of @state in private, again, these are published because we want to let whoever's listening know when these values change. Okay, and then as you may have guessed, now that we no longer have is showing detail and appetizer in our list view, we should get some errors here saying, hey, yeah, what is showing detail? So again, it's view model dot. And then when I refactor, and I know I'm going to have to type view model dot everywhere, I'll copy that and then just kind of paste it in front of all the stuff that's applicable, which again is our selected appetizer and our is showing detail. So that's all I did. If you thought that was fast, all I'm doing is pasting the view model dot in front of everything. And some people, maybe view model's long. This is subjective, but some people will do VM for view model to keep it short. Some people just say model, subjective, do you. But anyway, let's run this and make sure we're looking good after the refactor. Cool, chicken avocado spring roll, looking good. Dismiss that. Everything seems to be working. These stuffed shells are my favorite. I just want to keep looking at them. This app has made me hungry like all the time working on it. I see add to order, just the tap that shows up. So we need to eventually have this actually add it to an order to show up in our order screen. We're going to create our account screen, but all that is to come. Let's keep it moving.